Welcome, 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 welcome to Off the Cuff. Today, a special edition. To say I'm fired up about today's broadcast is truly an understatement. I'm so excited. I've kind of veered from this subject out of fear of the face of man for quite a while. And God dealt with me. God dealt with me. And there's no two better people that I'd like to expose more darkness with than Johnny Patriot and Joe Dingle. We'll get to that in a minute. It's a special Antarctica edition. The lands beyond, the lands below, the lands beneath, above. What is going on? Well, we're going to go into it. We're going to dig a deep well, and we're going to fill it with a lot of truth. A lot of things that might be speculation. I'll go into that in a minute. But let me just go over a couple of our fundraisers. Very important. Look at this. Look at this scarf. Is this amazing? This is, I'm going to open it up for you. This is John 3:16. Look at this. It's got a cross. And it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son." And it's got a gorgeous, look at this cross. Gorgeous cross. I don't know what it is about these scarves. And I told Jenna this. I said, you know what, honey? When I wear these scarves, I'm like feeling really good. I don't know what it is. I don't know. She's so anointed, and she designs these things. And I just love them. So there's this one. You can find it in the description below. And then, of course, I wear these all the time. If you see me out and about, you'll see me wear them on. These are gold. These are the Power of the Cross earrings. Again, they come in silver. Goes beautiful with this scarf. And again, in the description below. And then I couldn't wear this with this scarf. So I'm going to show it to you. It's Born to Be Free watercolor eagle spiral tie-dye. This is like 70s, late 70s into 80s combined with an eagle. It's just awesome. You can find it in the description below again. And for the next 2 days, she discounted the tea at 15%. That's $5 off. So if you really like that one, get it now. There's also, she said, a lot of new items on the website, including gift items, boutique, tumblers, jewelry, and more. Go to the new tab on the website or go on joincountry.com, go in Delora's Closet, or go in the description below. Okay. The other fundraiser, I don't say this a lot. You're going to hear me say it more because we are talking about the Impact Center, and I'm not going to go into that, but something kind of opened up for us a little bit. And so we're excited. Okay. And that's probably not going to be, I can't go into it now, but you're going to understand in months to come. So we did this to start to be able to get our first Impact Center. I was only doing it in dribs and drabs. People know that have come on the Zoom, but this is what we're doing. Our other fundraiser, which has turned into a bigger fundraiser, and now it's going to be for the Impact Center because we're thinking we actually can do something now. So I'm going to have Dennis and I are having an invite-only Zoom this Monday night at 7:00 Eastern. There's only so many spots. If you know Zoom, there's only so many people you can bring on. So if you want to be included, go to takingbackourhealth.com. This is why you say, why are you glowing? Why do you look like you're going backwards like Benjamin Button? This is why. So if you want to be invited, again, it's invite only. If you want to be invited, go to takingbackourhealth.com and put in your name and your email address, and you'll get a link. Okay, you'll hear from me, and you'll get a link, and that's going to be so that you will get the Zoom link on Monday. Okay, I hope that was clear. Okay, that's that. So you got Taking Back Our Health, you got joincountry.com. One's for the gathering, one's for Impact Center, and praise the Lord on that. All right, So I'm going to bring the guys on, and I don't see Joe on, but I hope he gets on. Usually he's on by now. If not, Johnny, I'm sure you have enough information, and I do too. We'll carry the whole show. So let me bring him on before I make a disclaimer. My dear friend Johnny Patriot.
Hello.
How you doing, my friend? This is an exciting topic. I've spoken to you about this many, many times. I veered away from it a little bit. We've hit Antarctica. I've really prayed, Johnny, that God would allow me to open it up more. I can only do what I hear and feel to do. And here we are today. So thank you for being courageous and coming on and giving your opinion based on maybe some speculation, some where you got evidence that is, you know what I'm saying, like in a court of law.
Saying.
You know what I mean? And so we're going to go down that road, but I've got to make this disclaimer first. It's very important for me. And I'll tell everyone why in a second. All I'm asking you guys is to be open, reason, respond, don't react. Don't call me or Johnny crazy if you disagree. Now, let me tell you something, Johnny, and this is the truth. People that I worked hand in hand with in the church in New York, that we were on staff for 22 years, hear me question things, and they actually tell other people. And I know two people in particular that just love going around telling everybody I'm nuts. And my husband's crazy because he's married to the nut. So it's really very interesting to me. And what is very wild to me is that I should be the one saying that, because the problem is that so many people are so programmed, especially those, the higher in the education realm you get, it seems like the more programmed you are.
Yeah, the more rigid the thinking is.
Yes, very, very good. That's the word. Rigid. Excellent. Thank you. So for this video, I didn't want to have to change the thumbnail, but we're calling it Finding True Earth. Okay, that's basically what we're trying to do. We all just want the truth. But I'll tell you, I've noticed that there's two things. I was talking to Dennis. The two things that I told Dennis you can't mention without losing family and friends. That's Trump and the shape of the earth. I've lost more friends. I don't know what it is, but I can't say that I believe this because I'm not 100% yet. But if I ever said, I believe the earth is flat, people will start laughing, call me crazy. And what I want to know is why? Why? So let me just say this, okay? And this is going to be my opener, and then I'll go to you. No, Planterius, they don't get to me, or I wouldn't be doing this. I hope they watch this. See, I hope that my prayer is that they would watch this and at least open their brain this much, because that's my job. That's the reason I do this. If you think I do this and get nailed by so many people and get death threats and all kinds of stuff because I like it, no one likes that. But they don't stop me. They don't bother me. Thank you, though. Thank you. Thank you for saying that. So, I'll tell you, Johnny, we got the best people. And I'm just going to say that. I'm not going to go off the cuff there because I'll start talking about all these people. They're amazing. Just amazing. And yet you're right, JF333. Some people just don't want the truth. They're afraid of the truth. They're afraid of the truth. So, okay. One truth, Johnny, you cannot dispute. And you know what that truth is? Admiral Byrd on NBC in the late 40s and early 50s told the world that there is land on the other side. I played the video 1,000 times. That's exaggerating. I probably played that video 25 times. On the other side of Antarctica, that is as big as the United States. That means somewhere in the Pacific, there's a huge landmass. Where is it? Why isn't NASA telling us about that huge landmass? It was on TV, on NBC. He said it. It's all over the internet. We can argue the shape of the Earth for days. We can argue that the maps are wrong, Johnny. We can map that they're covering up the dome and trying to make God a distant, far-off entity, that we aren't the center of the universe. But the landmass you cannot argue about, which is why I bring it up every show. So with that premise as being true, spoken on NBC decades ago by the most celebrated admiral in history, that's where this show will begin. But for me, who and where I get information from is what makes me either believe the information or deny the information. That's logical. That's using common sense. And I'm sure everyone, whether you agree, whether you think the Earth is flat, round, an elliptoid, a square, what a bowl, whatever you think it is, I think that we can agree on. But when you get things like this, Johnny, scientists say the bottom of the ocean is freezing cold water. It's been proven by many who have gone there. Yet scientists tell us the center of the Earth is blazing hot in molten lava. So why isn't the ocean hot? Let's talk about dinosaurs. Half of dinosaurs say they became extinct because of volcanic eruptions. The other half said they died in the Ice Age. Which is it? So let's go where we are today and where we're talking about. And let's start here. Scientists that work at NASA. Where did the original scientists come from that made up NASA? They came from World War II Germany. And the N-word, I don't want to say it because this is going to be posted on YouTube. They were imported from Germany to work, 1,200 of them in the new space agency. Now, really think about that. Really just give it some thought, even if you believe everything else we're saying is crazy. Everything we know about NASA, space, our universe, shape of the Earth, unexplored land on the Earth, going into orbit, etc., gets to us from German scientists. For me, the messenger is the utmost important. I wouldn't allow some truthers and people that even some pastors and some people that are on this thing and are talking heads and just regurgitate all the garbage we hear. I wouldn't trust them to babysit one of my favorite stuffed animals. So with that foundation laid, I'm going to go to you, Johnny, to explore more of what is being revealed. You start wherever you want. I know we're going to end up hitting it all.
Well, the search for the truth is a lonely road, and
it really is, my friend. It really
not
is.
many people want to walk that road with you, and you know it's a humbling experience too, because when you're younger, you think that people are going to stick with you. They're going to always be your friend. They're always going to listen to you, but you could be like me and just start out with no friends, and then you can just end up with negative friends. So that way I can eliminate the problem of worrying about getting rid of friends. But anyway, since I was a kid, it's always been that way. I've very with the way I think and the way I look at things, I've just always had a very small group of friends. And up until recently, in a normal world, you would think that people would want to know the truth, or at least be open-minded to the idea that there's more truth to be learned than we already know, because we already have found out over the last 7 years or so that, a lot of things aren't the way they seem, and they've been hiding things from us, and they've been purposely, with, I'll use Harvard as an example because it's coming up in the news a lot lately, with as much federal funding as that school gets. I mean, billions of dollars, for the amount of money that school charges for attendance. Why do you need billions of dollars to, run your school? Is it because you need to spin narratives? Is it because you need to keep in front of things? I mean, if you look at like the foundation of, I'll use the word science loosely, but the foundation of what mainstream archaeology, mainstream, physicists, mainstream whatever, they always want to maintain the control. They want to maintain the illusion that everything that they're putting out is the gospel. So whatever a well-known scientist or archaeologist comes out and says, hey, nope, the earth is definitely round. You have to believe not a space agency because everything goes through them. They literally run the world. So going to Antarctica and because you can't not have the flat earth conversation without talking about Antarctica. And I learned this recently, and within the last few years anyway. People always talk about how the night sky looks. They can always see, they name off planets. They name off like Venus and Jupiter and Mars. And so if we can all agree that the mainstream science says that you can see Venus is one of the larger stars in the night sky, that's kind of been, I grew up with that. People still say it. But if you look at the orbit of the planets, that they tell us that the planets in our solar system, Mercury is the closest to the sun, Venus is the next, Earth is the third planet from the sun, etc. So if you're looking at the night sky, obviously you're on the dark side of the Earth. So the dark side of the Earth is always the part of the Earth, obviously facing away from the sun. So if Venus's orbit is in front of Earth, in between Earth and the sun, and you're on the night side of Earth, you would never be able to see Venus in the night sky, because Venus would always be behind you, behind the Earth. It would be on the lighted side of the Earth, because that's the side of the Earth where Venus's orbit would be. It doesn't matter which part of the orbit Earth is in, Venus is always in front of it, between the moon, or excuse me, between the sun and the Earth. So if you think about just even that small detail, how are we seeing Venus in the night sky? If it's physically impossible, if you believe the orbits of the planets that they tell us are the orbits of the planets, the only way that makes sense is if the planets are either inside the firmament, part of the firmament, or just outside of it, and they rotate around, this way around us instead of the other way around. That would be the only way you would see Venus in the night sky. And I think I have a little graphic here. Hold on a second. Because I know people need to see things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where did it go? Here it is. Sorry, I talk a lot when I'm looking for stuff.
That's all right. I talk to myself all the time. Dennis comes in here and says, oh, I thought you were on the phone.
Yeah, I get that a lot too. Just where's my solar system?
Yeah, sometimes I'm the only one that'll listen to me.
All right, there you go.
Okay, got it.
All right, so if you look at that, just quick little graphic there. Obviously, it's not the scale or anything, I don't think. The sun is on the far left side. You've got Mercury, you've got Venus, you got the Earth, And that's as far as we need to go, because if you look at the orbit of Venus is in between the sun and the earth. So the right side of the earth would always be in darkness because it's facing away from the sun. So as the earth rotates, whatever, darkness would always be on the right side, the side facing Mars. So if the right side of earth, the dark side of earth at night, which when rotating, when we're like the northern hemisphere is in that part of the daily cycle,
right,
we would never be able to see Venus. Venus is behind us. It's in an orbit completely behind us. Like, you would never be able to see Venus. I can't.
never knew that. I never knew that.
But people say, yes, Venus is in the night sky, Mars, Jupiter, whatever. And the only way you could possibly see Venus, if this is the correct model of the solar system, is if Venus is above and rotates around the Earth.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Again, talking about, Antarctica, yada, yada, yada. I just think that that's a conversation people need to open their mind to, is that regardless of the shape of the Earth, something doesn't make sense.
So, right. It's absolutely correct. Now, I was going to go into, you did that. So that's going to bring me out of going into the summer gate in Antarctica. That's a whole thing. I'm going to do that. But you went down a road, and so I'm going to pick up from there. I'm just going to say a few facts about what we've been told. Okay. And people accept this, especially those that have been learned and have, degrees. It seems like the more degrees that are in back of your name, the less brain power you use. It like correlates. And it is the craziest thing to me. I mean, friends, family, everybody.
Yeah, and they're proud to show it too. They'll use it as a shield. Like, how dare you question me? I have the letters PhD after my name. What do you know?
It's unreal. Listen, I was pre-med. I get it. I ended up leaving because of I saw a doctor accidentally kill a patient and then cover it up. So I've been there. I was very into education. Not that I'm not into education, but my God. So anyway, this is a few interesting things. The Earth is a spinning ball flying through space. And I'm going to get to Antarctica, so we'll go there. But the Earth is spinning ball.
Get to Antarctica.
We'll get there. Flying through space at 66,600 miles an hour. Now, let me tell you how interesting that is, my friend. Obviously, 666. You don't have to be have a PhD to see that. But if you go look now, they know very few places are slowly scrubbing 66,600. Now it's 67,000 miles per hour because people are questioning why that number. They're talking about karmic retribution. They're saying you have to let us know everything. Now they did. Now it's out there. So why did they change it? So suddenly it's different. Suddenly it's a different number. At the same time, that's now a spinning ball. It's flying through space at 66,600 miles an hour as I'm sitting in my office, stationary. At the same time, the Earth rotates on its axis in a day. So in one day, the Earth rotates. So now you've got this Earth flying through space, turning like this. Okay. At the equator, the Earth is spinning 1,047 miles per hour. In Florida, it's about 1,000 miles per hour. And we don't feel that either. Now, look, at some point, you got to have some common sense. You got to say, why? And then I've traveled to the Caribbean and lower, and I didn't find myself upside down. Why? Why are people in Antarctica not walking on the ceiling? What is that? Oh, that's gravity. Oh, so, okay, so gravity's sticking you to the earth. Why am I not stuck upside down? Look, I'm not a brilliant woman. I have no PhD after my name, Johnny. Why can I ask that question, yet all these huge people don't? NASA admits photos of the Earth are actually composites. So why don't we have a real photo of the Earth? The reason what NASA says is that they've never gotten a really good one. So what? Because they're so far away from it. But they make them up. They have people make up these composites. So how do we really know what the shape is? Planes don't adjust for curvature. Architects don't design buildings with curve in mind. Long bridges like the Lake Pontchartrain in Causeway in Louisiana, 24 miles long, should show some curve, correct? No, nothing. Flat as pancake. Go look at it. The straits, what are those straits? The Bering Straits or whatever. Hundreds of miles flat. Old civilizations from Mayans to Egyptians track stars better than we do now. All said it was flat. The Bedford Level Experiment. It was a test that was done on a 6-mile stretch of water to prove Earth's curvature. No curve was found. You never hear about that anymore, though. What about flight paths? Some flight paths take bizarre detours that look like they're going. Yeah,
I've got a couple graphics for that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Good. Then I'm gonna let me just finish. Then please go back there. Doubters, they poo-poo this, Johnny, and they laugh at it. And, oh my God, you're crazy. Without ever questioning, they say, oh, the old people in times of old believed the earth was flat. Are we really going backwards? If truth goes backwards, let it be. Real intelligence does not point fingers at people and argue with them and break covenant, whether you've had a friendship for 5 years or 30 years or 5 days. They ask questions. You discuss it. Shape of the earth and Trump. Those are the two things you will lose everyone over. Johnny.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the Orange Man bad one is pretty bad. The media has made that such a nasty thing because, as you know, Julie and I are real estate agents, and we deal with a lot of people outside of our normal circle, and we deal with a lot of different businesses and a lot of different vendors and things like that, and it never fails. Just when you think you're getting to a certain point in a conversation, they always ask about your political affiliation or somehow bring it up. So they want to know it. And then they just never call you back. So anyway, that's a whole different show.
Oh my God. So really?
Oh yeah. I was having a conversation. It was about 10 days ago or so. Julie had invited somebody over, this woman. She sells home warranties, and we've dealt with her in the past. And she was telling us about she was going to Houston for some like alien conference, some blah, 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 it was just, the kind of stuff you'd see on the History Channel or whatever. She was going to this conference. So I started talking intelligently about the subject. And so she got very interested, and then we ended up going to lunch. And sure enough, after the first drink, it somehow came up, like she made like this like side comment, like, oh, by the way, like, what do you feel about blah, blah, blah? She goes, I'm not trying to pry, but how do you feel? And then like it just went south after that. It was like the worst lunch ever. I just couldn't.
Wow.
I told Julie next time that happens, I'm literally just going to get up and walk out. I don't care who it is. I'm not going to try and defend myself or try to defend Trump or it's just, I'm done with it. Just
me too. If
Agreed. That's the way you feel, good, but I'm not going to be
Agreed.
Here.
I don't have a problem if you feel like you do. Just use your brain.
Yeah. Well, don't make me feel like what I think is wrong.
That's right. Or you're
don't
not,
care.
you're crazy. You're
Yeah.
crazy.
I don't care if you believe that blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to, tell you you're wrong. I'm just not going to say anything about it. I'm just,
Right. Exactly. All right. So take us on a little trip for flight paths. This is interesting.
So my dad.
And then I'm going to go to Antarctica. I really am.
So when I was younger, my dad got his pilot's license, and I used to go with him all the time flying. And at the airport that we flew out of, we talked to a lot of commercial pilots who had their private pilot license as well. And so over the years, I've talked to a lot of pilots because it always didn't make sense to me that you had to compensate for the Earth's curvature. Like you never had to fly down every once in a while, like aim the nose down just to keep from going off out into space or something. You had to kind of follow the curve of the Earth. And the two pilots that I talked to on a regular basis that were commercial pilots told me that no, we don't do that. Once we set the cruise control basically, or set all the instruments, it stays at a level flight. It does not nose down, nose up, unless there's terrain we have to go around or something like that. But it doesn't they don't compensate for the curvature of the Earth. And so this first of two short videos is the actual maps that the airlines used to use for navigation before they had computers. So let me pull this one up here. By the way, I hope everybody's doing well.
So far, so good. Yeah. So far, so good. I'm wondering
all
what
right.
I'm going to get after this show. Should be interesting. Okay, I don't see it yet. There
you should have it now.
Got it. Yep.
This is a map that is downloaded in every autopilot computer on every airplane that has autopilot. This is the map that it uses. The only proof you guys have for round Earth, the globe, is NASA. No information you have ever received has come from anywhere but NASA. NASA in Hebrew means to deceive. This is Antarctica. If you do measurements for distances on how long flights are on this map, are identical to flight times that you look up on the internet. Do your research. It's not a globe.
Yeah,
God
notice
said
how
so.
Antarctica encircles the entire Earth. It's not just in like south of South America. It literally encircles the entire Earth. So that is.
But I want to tell you something. That's tough to get your head around.
Yeah, it is.
Even for me, that is tough to wrap your head around. It just is. Now I'm gonna. As soon as you do the next one, I will then go to what I'm going to talk about as well. Okay, there it is.
Well, here, go ahead. Let me pause that real quick. I want to preface this video because, again, having flown, being in a family with a pilot, this gentleman is specifically talking about certain flights. The first one I think he's talking about was like a World Cup soccer team, and because they had to divert for something and then go to their final destination. And none of these major diversions and a lot of these major flights are these well-known newsworthy flights. The diversions themselves don't make sense, and you'll see why.
Yeah, can you hold on a second?
Okay.
This man is David Weiss. If you don't know his story, he gave up a huge business because being a partnership, making a lot of money, because his partners didn't want him in it anymore because of what he was doing this many years ago. People are starting to realize that what he's saying is true. And I'm bringing it up. His name's David Weiss, Flat Earth Dave, because I'm trying to get a hold of him. I have an email address. I'm not getting any response. So I'm thinking I really would like to bring him on the show. I think it's time. And so I'm kind of at a point where if anyone knows how to get a hold of him, please email me or email him. Okay. And tell him I'm trying to get him. Go ahead, Johnny.
I love that name, Flat Earth Dave.
I know.
But listen very
Putting it
carefully.
out there.
Yeah, listen very carefully to the flights that he's talking about, because they only make sense on a flat Earth, and he'll show you why. It's a very short video.
Flights prove that the Earth is not a ball. This is the World Cup soccer.
Oh.
Okay? They were in Doha. They wanted to go back to Buenos Aires. They went to Rome to refuel, and then they went back there. Why didn't they just go here? Because if they did, there's no place to refuel out here. On a flat Earth, Doha, Rome, Buenos Aires. Taiwan to Los Angeles. They had an emergency right about here. Well, where would you land? Well, you could go to Hawaii. I might as well go to Los Angeles. Instead, they went all the way to Alaska. Okay?
Flat Earth.
Right? Flat Earth, Taiwan, Alaska, Los Angeles.
Ooh.
Okay. So here's an emergency. They were going from New York to Hawaii, right about here, and they said we have to land. So they went to Seattle, which is like 1,000 miles out of the way. They got there in record time. New York, Seattle, Hawaii.
Okay. I'll tell you, guys, this is not, do you think Johnny and I are being paid to like spread false propaganda? That is the truth. What Dave just said happened.
Yeah, if you think about it, the most logical reason for it is the one that should make sense in any other part of your life. So to go out of your way, however many thousand miles, to do something to get back onto your original course doesn't make sense, especially when you're limited on fuel. So when you look at an actual map like that pilot map that we saw, the autopilot map, if you look at that kind of a map and then draw a straight line to their final destination, it makes sense where they stopped or diverted because it's on the same path.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let me get, now that you said Antarctica circles the entire land of Earth. For me, and I think for a lot of others, Johnny, Antarctica is truly the final frontier. You know, it's like not outer space by looking up, but outer space by looking where Admiral Byrd said to look, which was past Antarctica. There's one thing that a lot of people don't talk about, but is really very, very interesting. And it's called the Summer Gate. And the Summer Gate, the reason they call it the Summer Gate is because there's an opening in the ice wall that goes through from our land to the outer land or outer space. And the only time you can get through there, it's different than there's the bird channel, they now call it. And I think there's 3 of them. I might be wrong. But this one is in the real depths of the ice wall. And the only way you can get to the outer land through it is during the summer. So they call it the Summer Gate of Antarctica. Captain Cook, you can look him up, the big explorer in the 1700s. He's the one that discovered the Summer Gate. He wrote many books. The Queen ended up changing his storyline. So, but she didn't want, and the reason is she did not want people knowing about it because she wanted the resources for herself and their country. So she changed it. See, every time someone changes the truth, it's to aid themselves or who they stand with or who they stand for. That's why storylines are changed. In this case, he lived from 1728 to 1779. He said Antarctica, he called it the Great Southern Continent, was a huge landmass, but it did not exist in the way people thought it existed. He gave all his calculations to the Queen. He found out when he circled, he went and was trying to find the end of this big ice wall. And he ended up going around and around and found himself back at the same place. You know what I'm saying? Hello. It took months. But what he ended up doing is when the next time he went back, he ended up finding, it was this summer, and he went and found this summer gate. Many books have been written over the past few hundred years. I mean, you can find a ton of them. People from a guy writing a novel about his experiences, The Republic, to, someone who knew people, was related to people that went there. It was all in Spanish. It was translated. The outer lands beyond Antarctica. Now, again, you got to understand, we're going by books. So I've not been there. I've not seen it with my own eyes. This is taking all the facts that we know and coming up with a hypothesis. Okay? This is how we're doing it. It's a very scientific approach and a very legal court approach. It's the truth with the preponderance of the evidence that we have. So France, Russia, Germany, Korea, Japan, Britain, United States. It's been said by Admiral Cook that those countries, United States is one of them, has been colonizing the areas through the Summer Gate for over 350 years. There was a mass expedition back in the 16th and 17th century, even Magellan and Cook. A lot of people were brought on ships and brought to these lands. Again, if you look up, you can find it in their books. It is amazing that one book, actually two books, say that there is a land and it's named Mars. And the people that live there are called Martians. And it's in outer space. In the outer space, we're in the inner space within the ice wall. Now listen to how logical this is, okay? I'm not, let me just say what my friends say. I'm not crazy. I just am an intelligent human being who questions people who killed Jews in World War II. Call me crazy. Call me crazy that I don't trust those guys. So let me continue and then I'll go back to you. Captain Cook, at the time he wrote about the Summer's Gate, the second time he went through, he was stopped and he was killed. By the way, people that come from the outer space are called extraterrestrials. And like E.T. E.T. came from what? Terra is Earth, not space. Terra, additional Earth, extraterrestrial. Okay? So the government made up a story. Listen to this, Johnny. This is amazing. That Admiral Cook, they murdered him, okay, when he got back and he was writing these books. That he was killed on a trip that they made to Hawaii on the way to the Southern Gate, okay, because if you go that way. And when the Hawaiians started shooting arrows and all kinds of things at the ship, Captain Cook himself took a small boat and went to the island, Hawaii. And then people that were there already, get this, told his crew that the Hawaiians killed him and ate him. But all that was left was his hand, and apparently he had a specific ring. And so the people that were there that testified to this, that were against Cook, handed his hand back to his crew on the ship. And they said, oh no, that is his hand. They must have eaten him. So that's how, I mean, can you imagine how preposterous that is? Many others have written about their Southern Gate. Maps of the outer lands have been found. There is, a lot of doubters that will say that that land does not exist. Then I want to know why every president, bar Donald Trump, find that very interesting. He's never been there as far as we know. Why has every pope, every queen, and every president, the big three, why have they all been to Antarctica? Beats me. I thought it was very interesting that in 2016, the day before Donald Trump won the 2016 election, John Kerry, then Secretary of State, went to Antarctica. What is that for? He suddenly likes science? I'm going to leave that there. When we come back, I'm going to show you something I've never showed before. And I hope I don't get a knock at my door for showing it, but I'm going to do it. Johnny.
Yep. There's so many little things and big things that have happened over the centuries that should at least tickle your mind into thinking that why all the fuss? What's the big deal? It's the most, technically, theoretically, whatever, it's supposed to be the most inhospitable place on the earth, but yet it's like a really popular verbo destination for politicians and world leaders and others. Hey, let's go to Antarctica. Let's have a secret meeting just because. When they could have it
let's bring our bathing suit.
Yeah, when they can have it like in Morocco or somewhere else or Hawaii or let's go to Antarctica. That would be cool. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, in 1944, if you know or have followed anything that has to do with the Third Reich and the people that came over with what Delora was talking about earlier into the United States as scientists, these guys were very heavily focused and heavily interested in not only the occult, but they were interested in many scientific endeavors. And they always seemed to have the jump and were always ahead of the curve as far as technology and even the thinking that goes along with it, like the way they thought about the scientific process and that kind of stuff. And Germany has had many expeditions before and during World War II to Antarctica. And again, that just seems like a weird place. Why wouldn't you just go to the North Pole or something like that? Why is it Antarctica? And we talked about in the last show, we talked about the Ariani, we've also talked about the Vril Society and that kind of stuff. So in 1944, the Third Reich, the leaders of the Third Reich, after they had been to Antarctica for at least once or twice, gave their top U-boat commanders, and at that time, Germany had the most advanced submarines. Like the U-boats were the most feared weapon they had in the war, just because they were just that well built. And so they gave the top U-boat commanders, I don't remember how many it was, but it was a very select elite group of people. They sent them a letter, sent them a missive, sent them like instructions, orders, if you will. And accompanying it was a map. So they sent them this map. All this information at the time before it was unclassified was considered secret above top secret. They sent them a map. I think I have an image of it. Sent them a map, a way to get into, for lack of a better term, the Hollow Earth. And you had to follow these like maps exactly in order to get to specific coordinates. And they gave coordinates. Let's see, where is it at here? They gave coordinates to these U-boat commanders along with instructions. And they gave them some orders that were not to be opened until they reached their final destination. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm using my Mac, and I'm just, when your brain's so used to using a PC and then you're using a Mac, like the next day, it's like everything's backwards. So
I can't use a PC. I can't do it.
I unfortunately have to because
I've
some
been
things
Macized.
work, some
Yeah,
things
yeah.
don't.
Better. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Just all
Alright.
my programs are Mac.
Okay, this is the first image.
Okay, I got it.
So this is part of a larger map. I just blew it up this section, but it gave specific instructions and coordinates and the topography underneath the ocean in Antarctica. So it gave some coordinates to like the entrance to this underground system. And I don't remember the exact length of time it took them to navigate this, but there was I think I have the letter. Let me find. It might actually just be easier to share my screen, but let's see here. But anyway, long story short, they believed so much in what they were doing. They had already established bases in these areas that these U-boat commanders were supposed to go help reinforce. They were supposed to bring supplies and troops and that kind of stuff to expand their territory. I'm trying to find
so much we don't know.
Trying to find
There
the
is
actual map.
What we know could probably fit in a teaspoon compared to what we don't know.
But there's too many.
Go ahead.
I should have just taken the full image, but this image is one of the 6 images or so that are on this map that shows the different areas that they've explored. So like where the little swastikas are on the maps there, that's where they've established bases. And we've talked about New Schwabenland, which is on the bottom left of that map, and as well as the city New Berlin. So these U-boat commanders were brought in to basically reinforce, to help push this empire forward. And if you look at like the very bottom of the map, you'll see like an opening there. That is kind of what Delora was describing. That's the main entrance into this kind of world, subterranean, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
All right, let me find one more picture here. I'm not gonna show them all because they're all basically they just show all the different areas that they've kind of explored.
Yeah, now understand these maps that were found have been literally put in publication in popular magazines during that time. They've been, I think, Hawaii, the biggest newspaper in Hawaii, in Honolulu at the turn of the century, posted all of these things. It isn't like people are not aware. People are aware, less aware now than they've ever been. People have parked their brains for some reason. I'm not sure why.
Right. I thought I had a picture of the whole map, but because it shows the actual declassification date and that kind of stuff on it.
Yeah. Lina, Claudio Nicelli. Yeah, that's a new book about going beyond the ice wall. It's not really a new book. It's been around for quite a while. That's where I live. I'm not sure I believe it all, but it's very interesting. And but if you look further into that, you'll find that there are other people that have written books from interviewing explorers that corroborate a lot of what he's saying. It's very interesting. Okay.
I took it out.
I don't have it.
It's the wrong one. Sorry.
All right. No big deal. Listen, you look for that.
There it is. I found it.
Okay, you found it. Go ahead.
Okay. So that's on the bottom there. That's the actual folded map. So I can't remember how many images are actually on the map, but on the bottom left corner there, that shows the route that the U-boat commanders were given. Bottom right actually shows the explored areas, and if you were to flip it over, it would have the other areas as well. But it's interesting because these all came from reputable German sources. Like these actually came from that were declassified after the war and came from all this, because remember how bent they were on it, destroying, famous artwork and that kind of stuff, and collecting
Yep.
artifacts and,
Yep.
that kind of thing.
Yes.
All this kind of got declassified around the same time. And also tying back to high jump, one thing we didn't talk about, we have talked about this before in another show a few years ago, but when we first did this whole Antarctica thing, there are very detailed schematics and of at least 4 different either reversed engineered aircraft or completely made from the ground up aircraft that resemble what we would consider UFOs that were used specifically for their Antarctic conquest in this area. And that's one of the things, if you believe all the stories of the Admiral Byrd expedition with high jump, they go into detail and talk about their battle with these aircraft, these ships. Some of them are very large. One of them was actually called the Andromeda. But anyway, I have. Just to give you an idea of what they look like. But this is, again, something that you can find, and these are legit. Like, this isn't like something that somebody just randomly created one day. Find a good image here. There we go. Okay. Well, like I said, there were different models of them. Like, this was the E4.
There you go.
And
what does that look like? Flying saucer.
Yeah, and they, like I said, they had several versions, and they were different sizes, and they had different purposes, and had different armament on them, and they gave, on the schematics themselves, they give all the dimensions, all the equipment that's part of, even the propulsion systems, but it's, and what their crew capacity is. Like, I think this one, the crew capacity was 120 people.
Jeez.
But
I never saw that, Johnny.
You've never seen those?
I never saw that. No, I've never seen
this
that.
This one will trip you out because this one is the actual schematic here.
Wow. A flying saucer.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, War of the Worlds, remember? My goodness. Okay.
This is still this is another. It gives the diameter. This one's 71 meters. The last one was 120 meters.
World capability, 100%.
Yeah. So it crew capacity of 32 men. So it's interesting because this was all in a very large collection of documents, kind of like if you were to, what the U.S. government did with Tesla. They went in and grabbed all his stuff. Trump's uncle went in there to verify all this, and you never see him again. And
that's right.
So anyway.
Okay, I'm going to end the broadcast with this. It was probably, let me put it this way. It was so long ago that, I was one of the first people, Dennis and I, that had a computer. We ended up on AOL. Dennis still has an AOL, believe it or not, email address. And remember remember to dial up that whole noise? That's when I found this. Since then, it's very, very difficult to find it again. I have the entire document. It's 107 pages long. I literally downloaded it the second I was able to download something because I knew it was going to go bye-bye. This is from nasa.gov. Nothing from me, nothing from Johnny, nothing from President Trump. nasa.gov. If you take down the exact information, NASA reference publication, everything you see here. I'll leave this up for a second. If you do it exactly and you're not on Google, you might be able to get that on the NASA site. It's buried, but they're not allowed to take things down once they put them up, unless it's for a security reason. So this has been up since 1988. The derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model. Okay, so what they're basically doing is they're testing a model on the ground, linear aircraft, but it's what if you read the whole thing, Johnny, it's almost like a hoverboard. You know, but they're testing it.
I know the exact document you're talking about, and I'll tell you why when you're done.
Okay, this is what the document says. This is the summary of this document. This report documents the derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model for a rigid aircraft of constant mass flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. The derivation makes no assumptions of references, trajectory, or vehicle symmetry, blah, blah, blah. Then, throughout the document, it says, we've discovered that on a flat, non-rotating Earth, this, blah, blah, blah. Then at the end, it says this. The abstract, which is kind of like the summary of what they've discovered. This report documents the derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model for a rigid aircraft of constant mass flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Now, Johnny, I showed this to someone who used to be at MIT. And this is the answer I got from them. Scientists frequently will test things on other terrains. So my next answer was, why? And the answer was because it gives them more information to test the vehicle. Why do they need more information to test a vehicle on a flat, non-rotating Earth if the Earth is round? You just don't understand science. That's what I was told. And walk away.
Exactly. Don't believe what you see. Don't believe what you hear. Just listen to me.
Oh, you found it. D. Ray G. found it in archives. Awesome. Thank you for doing that. If you found it that quickly, it's got to be up and around because, man, 7 years ago, that thing was deep. You couldn't even get it. But anyway, why did you know that, Johnny?
Well, I haven't told many people this. Julie's one of the only people I actually know besides my family. When I was a kid, I was very much like any other kid into dinosaurs and into space. I wanted to be a space shuttle pilot. So when the space shuttle program started, I was doing everything that I possibly could to keep up with the program. I was constantly in contact with NASA. We have a local NASA facility here. And I was getting all the documentation required for being part of the shuttle program, and specifically what you had to go through, you know, what milestones you had to hit to be a pilot in the space shuttle program. So, and then part of that involved being in the Air Force or in the Navy or being a pilot, basically, and getting a certain rank and having certain things done. So since, you know, back then, when you're using note cards and stuff in libraries and you don't have the old interwebs or anything like that, you kind of have to rely on snail mail. And so I would get every publication that NASA had would come to my house. And after
what year was this?
Well, this was leading up until I graduated high school. So like up till 84 when
Okay.
when the Air Force rejected me out of the pilot program because I was
Okay.
too skinny. So anyway,
Okay.
I was like 128 pounds with a 28-inch waist, and I could never gain weight. So you had to meet a certain height weight requirement to be in the pilot program.
Okay.
So anyway,
Yeah.
they basically just said, yeah, check with the Marines or check with whatever, see if they'll let you fly a helicopter. But anyway, long story short, that busted my bubble, but I still had all these documents. And after I graduated in 84, coming into the late 80s, like I think this was 88-ish, around late, somewhere in that time frame when they published this, I was still getting publications. I was still getting, stuff sent to me from NASA. So I saw this, and back then, most of us never talked about or even thought about flat Earth or even the concept of it. So like this document just kind of went over my head. Like I really didn't pay much attention to it because I thought, this was just something, like you said, something they wanted to test because of, for whatever reason, maybe they're, looking at whatever, but it never crossed my mind it had to do with flat Earth or with a globe or whatever.
Right.
But
right.
It's interesting that they will put out that information freely until, as when this great awakening started happening, now they really, no, that's not what we really meant. No, we forget about what we said. That was a dumb experiment. That whoever did that was just, they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, we destroyed the papers.
Yeah, just like the J6 stuff. Like, well, we just happened to get rid of all the evidence that we were using. But,
yeah. Wow.
Because it incriminates us. They only get rid of evidence when it incriminates them or incriminates a narrative or whatever.
That's right. All right. So let me just wrap this up really quickly and say this. The last thing people ask is why? So why are they hiding it? That's a very spiritual answer. I think the next one we do will be more of a spiritual understanding of all of this. They're trying to hide God, make him a distant ogre, way away in some far off galaxy, as the ever expanding universe is just millions of planets thrown into the air. This is all God does. He creates planets and he just universes, and they all just develop. They're hiding God that is above, right here, very close. And we are the center of the universe. They're hiding that. That is very frightening for them, and they don't ever want you to find that out. So, Johnny, thank you, my friend.
Oh, you're welcome.
For this. We are going to do this again next month. Let me take a little bit more of religious bent, maybe. Not religious, but you know what I mean, a little spiritual kind of look at it all. But real quick, again, just a couple of things you can do for us. Fundraisers, the one I spoke about at the beginning, is people you've been asking me constantly, what am I doing? Why am I losing weight? Why do I look like I glow? Why do I going back? Why am I Benjamin Button? Why am I healthy? Well, you can find out. I'll let you know. If you're still interested, go to takingbackourhealth.com. This isn't the other Taking Back. This is completely different. Takingbackourhealth.com. Go there. I'll get back to you. The second way is obviously joincountry.com. This is John 3:3. Oh my goodness, look at this cross. Has John 3:3 along the bottom. This is absolutely gorgeous. You can also use it as a wrap or a sarong or anything. You can use it around your hair. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. So that's joincountry.com. You want to go there. The descriptions are in the link below. And then, of course, you've got Power of the Cross. These are in gold. They come in gold and silver. And they go beautifully with this scarf. I mean, it pulls out the gold in it all over the place. And then this, which I couldn't wear because I wanted to wear the scarf, Born to Be Free. If you're a 70s, 80s baby, this is it. Born to be Free. It's got an eagle on it. And Jenna designed this watercolor eagle tie-dye t-shirt. $5 off for the next couple of days on this t-shirt. Just remember, free US shipping always. And there's all kinds of new stuff. Just go to new and you'll find everything. And again, somebody just texted me and said they didn't hear it. It's the new technology we're doing, takingbackourhealth.com. All right, Johnny, thank you again. Always good. I don't know what happened to Joe Dingle. I hope he's okay. I know he was looking forward to this. I'm going to write him, and let's put a date on the calendar for next time, and we will dig into this further and give it a spiritual aspect. Okay, guys. Sorry, I got to run. This was a longer show. Next time we'll take questions, or maybe we'll do just one. That is just all questions about this stuff. We could do that as well. So we'll see. Anyway, ciao for now. Love you. I'll see you on Off the Cuff Friday. Louis Herms is the guest. He's got a whole thing about what happened since the last time he was on. And then that's Double Decker Day and Fab 4 on Friday. Thanks, Johnny, again. God bless everyone. Remember, go in the power of God. Love you all. Have a great day.